We've all experienced them. What's the difference? Or maybe I better show you. I know you know the answer, but envy is what you feel towards someone when he has something that you want. Jealousy is what you feel when you have something you really like and don't want to share it. And covetousness is what you feel about the thing you want that the other person has. Covetousness is what you feel about the thing you want that another person has. This sinful feeling is the result of having the wrong attitude towards material things. Covetousness results from an excessive desire and greed for material gain. It involves a strong desire after the possession of worldly things. It's one of the best concealed landmines in the life of a believer. It's covetousness. And a landmine, you don't know that it's there until you step on it. But it is there. It's a landmine. And we tend to think the term simply describes a desire for an item belonging to another person, but it goes much deeper than that. Covetousness is an intense yearning for something we do not have, coupled with the belief that we won't be happy or satisfied until we get it. And we've all seen, have we got any Apple fanatics here? We got one. How passionate are you about Apple products? Oh, you used to work for them. But how passionate are you about their products? Pretty passionate. Would you spend 2 days in pouring rain, day and night, outside their store for the latest gadget that's coming out? You're not passionate then. Because these things, Apple only has to give a sniff that it's releasing something. All the energy, I've got to have it. And it's a slick marketing machine that presents itself to you, and you think, oh yeah, I've got to get that, I've got to have that, I've got to be one of the first to get it. And that's a desire that propels you and pushes you to forget about everything else. And this is what people do if you're outside an Apple store for 2 or 3 days camping just to get some gadget. People do it. It's an insatiable longing that distracts us from our relationship with God. If it does that, we are in danger. It's an intense craving that really, if we analyze it, it's idolatry. Our preoccupation with satisfying the desire translates it into our placing a higher priority on the object rather than God. And that's what idol worship really is. You value them more than you value God. Covetousness is a sin that greatly angers God. And Paul said covetousness is idolatry in Colossians 3, 5 and 6. Why? Because it takes the place in our hearts that belongs to God alone. And one of the reasons that sin is so dangerous, this covetousness, is it's the number one competitor against God. And Jesus makes it very clear, you cannot serve God and money at the same time. You've got to choose one or the other. You can't do both. So why are riches and material things bad for us? What's so wrong about them? We go out and buy things. What's so wrong? What's so bad about having riches and material things? All right. It's because we think that money and material goods do things that only God will do. So we replace God with money and possessions and what we can do with them. And when we do this, we deceive ourselves. They don't give us the happiness, they don't give us the lasting joy that it promises. You know, you see on TV those products that you believe they're too good to be true. Generally speaking, they are. Because you go out and buy them and you think, oh, I've been looking forward to this. You open it up and you think, I paid that for this? It's not really what I wanted. It doesn't do what it says. And you've got to read the fine print. That's a disclaimer. But most of us don't do that. All these things provide a temporary pleasure, but they don't bring lasting peace, purpose, loyalty, satisfaction, significance, or security. And one of the interesting things that someone has said, the rich person dies like everyone else, and there has never been a U-Haul trailer pulled behind a hearse. In other words, you don't see a hearse pulling all your goods behind you to go in the grave with you, because you can't take them with you. Now why? It's because you can't take it with you. Paul says covetousness leads to many sorrows, while only God can provide true lasting satisfaction and a joy that can't be taken away. Now if we break it down, the desire, those who long to be rich. How many people are looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Have you found it yet? Keep looking. Is there a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Why do people look for it then? They spend their whole life searching, wishing. But there's a desire for those who long to be rich. Their motivation in life is to be rich, and they'll do whatever it takes to realize that ambition and their desire. And the word that's used in the original means it's something that has been settled in their minds. Something that's settled in their minds. Something that has been carefully thought out, not involving any emotions. It's a settled determination that they're going to do this. They're going to get as much of what the world has to offer while they can. Now, this is in sharp contrast to what Paul said in verse 6. Contentment with godliness is great gain. What this does is encourage you to pursue a godly life as against coveting the riches of this world. And the word desire means to crave for, to long for, to stretch out to get something. And our desire for money can become an idol. And the problem with idols is they always need to be fed because they're always hungry. They're demanding, bordering on insatiable, meaning that it's nearly impossible to satisfy them. You'll have this desire for something else, and then something better comes, and something better, and something better, and something better. You've always got to have it, and it's always feeding that desire. In 1 John, we find these words of wisdom. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Because all that is in the world, the desire of the flesh, desire of the eyes, and the arrogance produced by material possessions, is not from the Father, but it is from the world. And the world is passing away with all its desires, but the person who does the will of God remains forever. Now, the original language says this desire for money is a deliberate choice. In other words, it's an inner driving force that says, I've got to have these things. And it comes because of pride. A person is seeking recognition. A person wants to prove themselves and to others that they are somebody. Look at me. Look at what I've got. Look at all my possessions. You better pay attention to me. So all these things they do to gain recognition and impress people. And yet Jesus puts it very clearly in Scripture when he says, oops, I didn't put that one up. He says, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. So it is saying if we allow money to be our master, then we're not going to serve the Lord. We cannot serve two masters. That makes money an idol if it controls our every waking thought. The desire to accumulate more and more and more of what the world has, while we pay very little attention to what does God want. And it all starts with the inward desire and longing, which then becomes a settled determination to pursue these things at whatever cost it's going to take. Then we have the deviation. Now, that's a big, didn't remove that. It says, you want this desire to be rich, however, stumble into temptation. Stumble into the temptation. And the word here that's used, it's a temptation that is unique, it's specialized, and it falls to those who are pursuing the riches of this world. It's a unique trap. It's a temptation that's set particularly for those who pursue and have this desire for riches. That temptation traps someone seeking to be rich. It blinds them to the consequences of what they're presenting. It destroys relationships. It never satisfies a person completely of what they have, and they'll always want more. That's a temptation. And we've all been there. We've all got something that we wanted, really wanted, and gone out and got. And then we found that, hey, it's not what I really desired at all. It's not what it's cracked up to be. And it never satisfies us. So we wait for the next thing to come out. But this desire to be rich opens a set of doors to a whole new set of temptations, which will open a person's heart to pursue after them that he never normally would be concerned about. The Bible reminds us there's no temptation that has overtaken us that is uncommon to man. God always provides a way of escape. Now, if I pursue after riches, I'm allowing myself to be set up and trapped. I will become entangled by my desire to have these things, no matter the cost. And you know what? I cannot blame God for what's happened to me. I've allowed it to happen. I've chosen to let it happen. So I must therefore accept the personal responsibility. I've chosen to do these things knowing I could be a servant to my desires, yet I allowed it to control everything about it, everything I do. Now, we get an example of this. We find this in Genesis chapter 13 and chapter 19. It's talking about Lot. Lot looked up and saw the whole region of the Jordan. He noticed that all of it was well watered. That was before the Lord obliterated Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, all the way to Zoar. Lot chose for himself the whole region of the Jordan, travelled toward the east. So the relatives separated from one another. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, but Lot settled among the cities of Jordan Plain, pitched his tents next to Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were extremely wicked rebels against the Lord. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening while Lot was sitting in the city's gateway. When Lot saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face towards the ground. Here is an account that shows how you can be trapped by the temptation of riches. Lot allowed himself to be seduced by everything he saw. You know, Abram was good, you have a choice. And so he looked at what he wanted. And he wanted it, and he was determined to have the best portions for himself. And it even to the point where it cost his relationship with Abram. He set his sights on Sodom. He pitched his tents near the city so he could be closer to his desire. And then he sat in the gate of Sodom. He wasn't content to live nearby, close looking at it. He had to live in the midst of the gate. Now he lived in that wicked city of Sodom. So he was dragged in, pulled in by the temptation and lure of riches and good things. The deception and a trap and many senseless and harmful desires. Paul uses a word here that means trap, a snare that is set to bring about a person's downfall. It is a trap, and if we intend on pursuing after riches and wealth, if that's all we're living for, it's a no-brainer. We'll fall into this trap. We won't even see it. Now, understanding a trap is something that's carefully set. It's hidden. It just doesn't stand out with a sign that says, beware, trap, don't go this way, otherwise you'll get caught. No, it's hidden. It conceals itself. It's camouflaged so that it will trap the unwary person. Now, when we look at the carefully laid traps, we only have to look at our advertising to see the temptation of how we fall into those traps. Now, I've said it before, if all of a sudden we open these windows and there's a nice wind blowing through here, you will be able to smell Kentucky Fried Chicken wafting through this place. Now, I don't have to say anything, but you know what? What will your mind start thinking? I'm hungry. That smells good. It's finger licking good. And you'll convince yourself that you're going to get some chicken. It's the slick advertising that sets it up, that it posts an idea and it captures people to come and get it. And once they've got it, they are trapped. Often our advertising, it'll bombard us about the freedom and the lifestyle that money and riches will bring us. So you've got to have it. And it sounds so easy, so obtainable. There's no strings attached. You know, you see these credit card companies saying, look, if you want between 500 and 50,000, all you've got to do is apply. We give you the low interest rates. Then you've got to read the bottom prints that tell you how much you pay back if you default. And that's where you get caught. But our advertising says, look, don't worry about the fine print, nothing to see here. You need to treat yourself to these things. You owe it to yourself. Go and do it. New house, new car, new wardrobe. But it's a trap that reaches out to our hearts and minds and pulls us toward these things. It plants the thought of all the different things we could achieve. If only you had these things, you could do this, you could do that. Now, how many times have you thought, oh, I'd like to win the lottery. Oh, I'd like to win this. Oh, I'd like to win that. If I did, bang, bang, bang. We're already going ahead of how we're going to spend it. Now, the word senseless means to be irrational and harmful, means to be injured and hurt. And the reason the pursuit of riches deceives is that money does not last forever. And it never brings about true happiness. You can be very wealthy, but it won't extend your life if you get a terminal disease. Money will buy a bed, but it won't buy sleep. Money can buy books, but not brains. Money can buy food, but it can't buy an appetite. Money can buy a house, but not a home. It can buy medicine, but not health. It can buy luxuries, but not a culture. It can buy amusements, but not happiness. It can buy religion, but it can't bring salvation. A passport to everywhere, but not to heaven. Money can't bring true happiness because it can't reconcile us to God or to other people, because it doesn't deal with the hard issue of sin that will alienate us from God. I don't know whether I put this up or not. No. Deuteronomy 7:25 reminds us, burn up their idols in the fire. Do not wish for the silver and gold they have. Don't take it for yourselves, or you'll be trapped by it. The Lord your God hates it. A very clear statement. There are strong desires that come because of this desire to get rich and accumulate wealth. And the issue is not about whether you have money or not. It's not about whether the Lord blesses you with such things. The issue is simple. The desire is to be rich. That's the issue. And this desire to be rich opens our hearts to lust that is both foolish and harmful. It's saying that the passions that come around, in other words, desire for money and wealth, are foolish. They're not going to satisfy you and do what you think they do. It'll only entrap you and make life more difficult. And yet, people keep pursuing after it more and more. People are constantly thinking of how you can make a bit more money, just a little bit more. The pursuit of it, in and of itself, is not just empty. It's ridiculous in its pursuit because we give an account to God for everything that we use, everything that we do. Everything that we do in this life, we give an account for. And it's useless. If God has given us, He's given it to us for a purpose, not to spend on ourselves. The destruction that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Not only will people find themselves trapped by their wealth, but according to our text, they will drown themselves into destruction. What do I mean? Paul uses a word here for plunge that means to be at the bottom. It literally means to be drowned in it, to be dragged to the bottom of a lake. And he's saying such individuals in the pursuit of riches, they plunge themselves, they are drowned in this pool of ruin and destruction. The word ruin is used for bodily or physical destruction, often used for cities or buildings that are destroyed. So in that sense, the part of the pursuit of wealth is that it drowns us and physically it will destroy us. The word destruction is used as perdition and damnation. If we're in pursuit of these things, we can drown in destruction and damnation. People walk away from their faith because there are riches to be had in this world. There are so many things to enjoy, so many things to taste, so many things in this life that people will abandon Christ to get them. They are trapped in the desire for wealth. These are people who are destroyed by the love of money. It torments them. He clarifies this problem. For the love of money is the root of all evils. Some people in reaching for it have strayed from the faith, stabbed themselves with many pains. Now this verse is often the most misquoted verse in the Bible. People say that money is the root of all evil, where it makes it specific. The love of money is the problem. Money is something neutral. It has no feelings. It cannot express itself. It cannot tell you what it wants to do. It's simply an instrument that can be used for good or evil purposes, depending upon how you use it. Money isn't everything in life. Many people survived without it, as they have done in the past very well. It is an instrument that is used to buy, sell, and exchange goods. Nothing more, nothing less. Money has no mind of its own. It is only those who use it can do and use it for the wrong reasons. And they do it to benefit themselves instead of everybody. Now the concern for the love of money is the root of all evils. Money's not bad, but it is man's desire and determination to get it. He uses a word here which means the love of silver. And it is that love of silver that brings in all sorts of evil. It cements itself within us. It draws all these different areas. All these terrible evils fall into our lives because of it. So the concern is about loving money. He's saying don't let it get a grip on you so that it controls your waking thoughts and all your actions. The corruption, some people in reaching for it have strayed from the faith. Money has the ability, riches have the ability, material wealth has the ability to corrupt a person. It says some people, in the pursuit of wealth and riches, have turned their backs or abandoned their faith. They don't realize it. They don't think that they have turned their backs on living for the Lord. They've made a few adjustments to accommodate both riches and wealth and the Christian faith. But as the Bible says, you can't live between two masters. You either serve one or hate the other. And this is the problem. The reality is a person whose sole purpose is to pursue a life of wealth and riches may appear to be coping very well on the surface, thinking life is great, everything is moving in the right direction for them to achieve their goals. And then the unforeseen happens, which catches them unprepared. And he has nowhere to turn because he hasn't been trusting the Lord to supply his needs. He's been trusting in his own abilities to do that. And now he finds he has nothing. And there's many testimonies of people who have pursued riches, turned their back on the Lord. The unexpected has happened. They've lost everything. And they honestly don't know what to do. Wealth is not going to bring you the satisfaction and happiness that you think it does. And a Christian who pursues money, you'll soon discover yourself drifting in life, lost and confused, trying to understand how could life have turned out this way. Paul is not saying some might wander away from the faith. He's saying, be careful, you may abandon your faith because of your love for money. He says, by longing for it, some have wandered away from the faith. In other words, he's saying, Timothy, it's happened in your church already. Some people have left because of their love for money. The question is, why would anyone abandon the person of Jesus Christ and the life to come for the riches and power that's only offered in this life? And he finishes with this, the casualties, and stab themselves with many pains. Now, I can't imagine myself doing that. Can you? It is metaphorical, but the pain is very real. Basically, the idea of pierce themselves with many a pang. He uses a very descriptive word which means to pierce through or to impale. To impale. These people who have pursued a life of wealth and riches have impaled themselves and as a result have caused themselves great pain. Yet this pain is self-inflicted. It has a spiritual idea. Not only spiritually, but emotionally. They're shipwrecking their faith, yet they continue to cause themselves more pain by pursuing it. They know better, but they choose not to deal with it. So they cause themselves and others a great deal of pain. The idea of pierced was originally used of putting animals on a spit, running a skewer through the animal. What he's saying is, basically they've skewered themselves with this pursuit of the love of money. So their souls have been run through, and grief is what their consequence is, because it condemns them. They know better. They know they shouldn't. And they have an unfulfilled heart. They become disillusioned and dissatisfied. And really what Paul is saying, it's no way to live. Not for a Christian. The love of money and what it has to offer, it's not for you. There's something. Paul is saying something that's already been out there for you to see. He said, some of you have tried to live and pursue your life, and all money is all you think about. You've seen how some of these people, some of your friends, some of your neighbors have erred from their faith, and they have skewered their souls forever. And Paul says that's not what you want. We've talked about this idea of the love of money and how the love of money is the root of all sorts of evils, and how some by longing for it have wandered away from faith and pierced themselves with many griefs or many pangs. It doesn't make sense to do it. And yet all of us live sometimes in active denial of the real grip of the love of money. Because we can deny, oh, it's not mine, I don't have that problem. But I think we're denying fundamentally underneath, we all suffer from covetousness in some way or shape. We've just got to make sure that we do not allow ourselves to be driven to, in the end, to get all these riches. Because it's easy for us to fantasize about what we could do if we had more money. And I think that thought has crossed our minds many times. If I only had this, just a little bit more here, I'd be able to do this and I'd be able to do that. That's fantasizing. As Christians, we observe the world and its people, and there are times when we might stop and we might envy the world for what it has and what it offers, more than we value what we have as God's people. We think that the people of the world get all the good things in life. Because as an unbeliever, they can remain ignorant about sin and its effects and take what they want, enjoy all this life has to offer, and it seems like it's a win-win situation for them. They get the promotions at work, they enjoy the luxuries, continue to sin, cheat, get away with everything without any regret. When the reality is that is untrue. They may suppress the truth in unrighteousness, but the pang of guilt and the pang of conscience still works in all people. It really does. They can put it aside and pretend it doesn't matter, but in the end, they'll bear an account for everything that they do. Every deed will be paid. God is not fooled. He knows all. And we need to be careful that greed does not gain a foothold in our lives. Think about this carefully, about this life. What am I pursuing in this life, and why am I pursuing it? We do not need to become another statistic who has been deceived by the riches of this world. We ask the question, is God enough for this life and the one to come? Do we really believe that? He knows what we need, when we need it, and will supply it when it's the right time. But will I trust him to do it? Or will I pursue